Hey, you spooky, scary skeletons. We are here to talk about mummies. Oh, right. No, get out of here. Wrong mummy. Dinosaur mummies. But that's also not what we're going to be talking about. Get out of here. Go. Okay, so when you think mummy, you're probably thinking something kind of similar to this guy. Don't worry. Milo Rossi, Mini Minute Man, love your channel. I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not a mummy expert. That's your job. And by the way, awesome job with the mummy tattoo thingy. Probably one of my favorite episodes of yours. I love the theming of your tattoos. Keep up the good work. So if we're not talking about this mummy, even though that's a very, very cheap plastic mummy, why talk about dinosaur mummies? Well, this week, Dr. Paul Sereno, that total stud muffin, that silver fox with totally not silver hair, he kind of put out a new paper. And in Paul Sereno's new paper, he kind of describes some dinosaur mummies. But the term is a little misleading because when you think of a mummy, you're thinking of a human who has been extraordinarily well preserved, where the soft tissue is still hanging out there, a lot of times covered in something that kind of hold things in or to protect them. Not all mummies do that, by the way. Hello, Utsi. Anyway, again, not an archaeologist. Don't worry, Graham. I'm not going to claim to be an archaeologist because I'm not one. Take notes. Anyway, so when you hear the word dinosaur mummy, it's incredibly misleading because all we're really talking about is skeletal materials with some potential soft tissue remains that have been preserved. Not a true mummy for, say, like this. So for all you noobs out there, that's okay. It's just kind of a way to say super well preserved because in our modern world, if we find a human that's super well preserved, we call them mummies. All right, so normally in paleontology, you find bones, and they don't give you the whole picture. Now, bones can be extremely informative because there's a lot going on with them that kind of gives an animal their basic framework and structure. But sometimes we want a little bit more, and every now and then, some fossils give it to us. So Dr. Sereno found an animal that had some skin coverings and some other soft tissue preserved. That is incredibly rare, and it was an Edmontosaurus, and actually two Edmontosauruses, with potential more papers coming out with more individuals. And there was one adult one and one juvenile, and they were more than just bones. They showed some soft coverings. Okay, so to best illustrate how a potential dinosaur mummy can be, I'm going to show you this crazy biofact that I have here. Any guesses what this is? That's right. That is a chunk of a dwarf caiman tail. But before I tell you how I got that chunk, I need to tell you guys that there is some pretty crazy stuff out there. And if you have weird stuff about crocodilians, like maybe losing their tails or mutated tails, Jake Miller actually goes over this in his book, What We Get Wrong About Crocodilians. This is not a sponsorship. I genuinely love this book. And it teaches some really good stuff, especially stuff that should be beginner that a lot of people miss. So go ahead, check out Jake Miller's What We Get Wrong About Crocodilians. Not a sponsor. Goodbye. So what is the story behind this amazing piece that I have here? Well, it came from me working at a facility where we had some caimans, and we were doing a little bit of a vet check. But I hope that didn't scare you. Get out of here. Wrong kind of mummy. And yes, I do find the irony that Sereno published his dinosaur mummy so close to Halloween. I don't think that was a mistake. Dr. Sereno, you dog, look at that, having all that fun. So, what happened is, caimans can actually have their tails break off. Actually, all crocs technically can. With enough force, anybody can break. We were doing a vet check, and I guess no one told me that the tail had previously fell off. The animal that owns this tail is still alive. It broke off, and it has grown back. And this is the second time it has grown back. So I thought, this is kind of sad. I took it home thinking I was going to get the vertebra from out inside and have a really cool display of the last little tail chunk of a dwarf caiman. It stayed. I don't know what made it not stay. This is pretty much the actual size. It did not shrink. They have very, very tiny, thin tails, blades for swimming, right? So there's two ways you're going to get a dinosaur mummy. Way number one is miraculously you can actually get the skin to preserve. And it would have to be a situation similar to this. You have a chunk, and chunks like this have a very high probability of survival because there's very little meat, high amounts of bone, and high amounts of keratin in here. So most animals are not going to just try to eat that chunk and that chunk alone. So if this were to be out and about right now, the probability of it getting eaten is almost zero. And if it were to get covered and preserved, then the probability of it fossilizing is really, really high. Being found is a different thing. Most fossils that exist have not been found yet, right? So using this as an example, if it gets covered, there's a chance that the skin would stay preserved with this animal. So that becomes a true body form fossil. What Sereno described with his Edmontosauruses, which, by the way, dinosaur mummies are not a new thing. We have quite a few, most of which are hadrosaurs, ornithopods, and stuff like that. But, I mean, I do like that he talked about the tail spikes going halfway down the hips and down the tail, but not on the fore part of the body. And I think Edmontosaurus with that really cool crest really is awesome. The foot stuff's pretty cool. I don't think it's a huge shock to most people that the hoof-like structure, I mean, we already kind of knew that they had the hoof-like structure, but I like the one-to-one dorsal spikes to each vertebral crest, the neural crest in there. So that's pretty cool. That's very unique. Only found in like 1 chameleon species in Tuataras, which is not a lizard, but it's a squamate still. So, I mean, there's some really cool stuff that Sereno's mummy had that other mummies didn't have, and every fossil tells a story, and it's super informative. Now, going back to our caiman tail here, by the way, naughty, naughty, naughty. Some of you guys are watching and not subscribing. You guys got to learn some cool zoology, some cool biology, cool paleontology, guys. Don't forget, I'm the author of Megacrocs by Jason Dunn, found on Amazon. Goes over a lot of biology, modern stuff, and some prehistoric stuff, mostly looking at Deinosuchus, Sarcosuchus, and Perusaurus. So get your copy. Get out of here. Back to caiman tail. Guys, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this because I'm trying to push this out there just so I can teach some basic stuff. I'm not a cinematographer. I'm not a director. I am not a camera genius. I am using my phone on a blanket in my yard just to teach you about this really cool random caiman chunk tail. Next option for mummification, and the most likely option for Sereno's Edmontosaurus, is you have a chunk of an animal, it gets covered, and the sediment that covers the animal, maybe it's volcanic ash, maybe it's like a small organic silt or something like that, that covers this rapidly. It takes the form of the shape of the skin, and then the skin digests. It gets broken down by detritivores like bacteria. And so essentially the soft tissue is gone, but you get a 3D copy through the negative, and so it can become a mold fossil. That is the most common way you're going to get these well-preserved soft tissues. Very few times you're going to get soft tissue preserved where it's an actual body fossil. Normally it's a mold fossil, and then eventually once the skin is dissolved, maybe another fine, very fine material can come in and fill in that place. The best example I can think for anyone who likes archaeology, again, not me, not an archaeologist, would be Pompeii and some of the bodies they have there. The bodies you have there are mostly not human remains. It is a hollow cavity that's been filled, and you're just seeing what's been filled up there. So, again, it sounds like what happened with Sereno's Edmontosaurus, and which, by the way, finding the mummy lands of the Lance Formation, awesome job, Sereno. I'm really excited to hear, and I saw your teaser on that one news interview you did about another super mega croc coming out. Sereno, email me, comment on this video below. I want more info on that. But remember, all crocs are mega crocs, even the little ones. You naughty little, oh wait, you're still alive. So anyway, I think she wants it back, but she's already grown it back, so she's fine. So Sereno's is probably a covering, 3D copy, and then the skin is gone. So again, guys, comment below if you like Sereno's new discovery. Tell me what you're most excited. I like the double hoof thing. I like the crest. I like the one-to-one spikes to the dorsal spines to the neural arch with inside there. So that's pretty cool discovery, guys. Every fossil tells a story. Every croc's a mega croc. Like, share, and subscribe. And by the way, it's Halloween out there. I purposely waited till the last minute to post a Halloween video, so make sure you guys know I'm being festive. But please, if you have children, make sure they trick-or-treat safely. Be fun, but be careful out there. I want to say a quick shout out to Dr. Brian Curtis on Fossil Crates. He has always been super kind and super nice to me always commenting on my videos, always saying, oh wow, cool, good job. He's answered questions for me when I shot him messages. So guys, go over to Fossil Crates, watch their videos, go buy Brian Curtis's new book. I'm actually super excited to get a copy. 27 dinosaurs I didn't really know about. That sounds pretty cool to me. So go check that out. I also like Dr. Steve Rowe with Real Paleontology. Very, very fun guy to talk to. I've had a few conversations with him. Very passionate, super knowledgeable. So go check out Real Paleontology YouTube channel, guys. And please, again, have a happy Halloween. And if you liked this spooky caiman tail tip of a still living caiman, give me a like, because, hey, this is a pretty cool biofact, and it teaches a lot. Look inside there. Ta-da! Okay, guys, happy Halloween. Don't get too scared, and don't eat too much candy, and stay safe, my friends. Bye.